Thank you and good day to all. I'm delighted to deliver this welcoming address at the Sustainability and Climate Action Leadership Exchange or SCALE 2020 conference. It is indeed the most suitable platform to hold this conference at this year's virtual iGEM, which is viewed across the globe in 18 countries. To be able to disseminate ideas and opinions at iGEM would definitely garner vast participants from various backgrounds that are interested in the way forward in today's subject, which is leveraging technologies to accelerate the low carbon energy transition. Being Southeast Asia's largest street event for green technologies and eco solutions, iGEM brings in solution providers and green energy businesses to tap into the fast expanding ASEAN market by showcasing the latest innovation and technology to policymakers, government organizations, investors, and the mass market. Over the years, iGEM has successfully generated over 30 billion ringgit in business leads since its initiation in 2010. To date, iGEM has attracted an attendance of around more than half a million visitors, including delegates, dignitaries, and companies from over 60 countries. MGTC was restructured in April 2010, assuming the role of the country's lead agency, focusing on catalyzing green technology agenda in line with the aspiration of the National Green Technology Policy of 2009. And now, MGTC is under the Ministry of Environment and Water, or CASA, and known as Malaysian Green Technology and Climate Change Centre. As the lead agency for CASA, MGTC develops and implements programs on green growth, climate change mitigation, and climate change adaptation. Climate change is one of the defining moments of our time, and its greatest impact are felt in our cities. In Malaysia, 75% of the population live in cities, and it is projected to increase to 85 to 90% by 2050. Globally, cities consume more than two-thirds of the world energy and accounted for more than 70% of global carbon dioxide emissions. For Malaysia, our cities are responsible for up to 95% of our greenhouse gas emission. This makes cities the biggest contributor to climate change, but it also provides the greatest opportunity to fix the problem. Over the past 30 years, significant findings regarding global warming highlighted the need to curb carbon emission. From this, the idea of low carbon energy was born. The Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, or IPCC, set a scientific precedent for the introduction of low carbon energy. Internationally, the most prominent early step in the direction of low carbon energy was the signing of the Kyoto Protocol in 2005, under which most industrialized countries committed to reduce their carbon emission. The historical event set the political precedent for introduction of low carbon energy technology. There are six sources of energy: geothermal, tidal, fossil fuel, solar, nuclear, and salinity gradient. When discussing low carbon energy, obviously renewable energy directly comes to mind. Renewable energy is energy that is collected from renewable resources. It is derived from natural processes that are replenished constantly. In its various forms, it derives directly from the sun or from heat generated deep within the earth. Included in the definition is electricity and heat generated from solar, wind, ocean, hydropower, biomass, geothermal resources, and biofuel, and obviously hydrogen, which are derived from renewable resources. Technology is crucial for the decarbonization of the energy sector. The world energy transformation is accelerating. This is due to the combination of technological progresses, developmental priorities, and rising environmental concerns. We need technology to accelerate deployment, driving cost reduction, improving performance, and enabling integration of existing and emerging renewable technologies in energy systems. On the other hand, innovation is needed to unearth and develop new technologies. Incremental improvement will continue to foster significant progress and hopefully will lead us to a complete transformation of the energy sector. Game changing technologies and approaches are very much in need. Whether to this breakthrough and early stage technologies will become commercially viable is for us all to adopt and embrace. The growing numbers of initiatives that focus on innovation serve an important purpose to accelerate progress in R&D and technological innovation, but they need to align with priority areas. At today's Scale 2020 conference, it offers the climate community various ways to leverage technologies in order to accelerate the low carbon energy transition. With the current COVID-19 pandemic, two recent significant occurrences come to mind. The first is the European Union post-COVID-19 financing of Euro 800 billion in the collective debt by all European nations to focus on green economy and digital technology opportunities to transform business in a radical way. And the second was the recent statement by the Secretary General of United Nations, Antonio Guterres, in a message for the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, urging governments to use their economic responses to the coronavirus pandemic to tackle the even deeper emergency of climate change. In Malaysia's drive towards business recovery post COVID 19, it is key to focus on environmental recovery as part of the aspiration. With the recent occurrence globally, it would be very optimistic to position Malaysia as the green innovator country in ASEAN. This would create opportunities in project collaborations, project financing, and new technologies in Malaysia. It would also position Malaysia as the hub for potential FDIs in sustainable innovation projects, paving the way as the leader in ASEAN for sustainability. With the high profile list of panels today, I'm confident that this discussion would be rather impactful and exciting in leveraging technologies to accelerate the low carbon energy transition. I encourage the participants to embrace all of this session and attentively listen to a broad spectrum of views and matters so dearly to our being, which is the planetary health of our Earth. I'm certain that the panels will spark fresh ideas and inspire new actions on climate change and environmental sustainability. With that, I welcome all views again and to Scale 2020 conference and to organizer and the panelists, thank you for participating in this webinar.
Our first presenter, Hasril Izan, is the Director of Digital Services in the Sustainable Development Authority of Malaysia. He has over 18 years of experience in ICT services on data centers and networks. In sustainable energy, Hasril was involved in developing the first green data center for the Ministry of Energy Malaysia and online feed-in tariff system for SEDA Malaysia. As the Digital Services Director, he is responsible for managing and advancing the ICT technology in SEDA Malaysia. He actively participates in the development of ICT innovations relating to sustainable energy as well. He recently completed a pilot project to test the technical feasibility of peer-to-peer energy trading in Malaysia under the regulatory sandbox.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. I also would like to thank iGEM for inviting me. As the session team, leveraging technologies to spearhead Malaysia's low carbon energy transition, I will take this opportunity to share about Malaysia's first P2P energy trading pilot project under regulatory sandbox, which has completed on last June 2020. I'm Hazril, the Director of Digital Services in Sustainable Energy Development Authority, Malaysia, or also called SEDA. A brief about SEDA: we are a government agency reporting to the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources. We were established in September 2011 under the SEDA Act. Our primarily functions are to implement the feed-in tariff scheme and to advise the Minister on the matters related to sustainable energy. SEDA has decided to come out with a pilot run of the P2P energy trading for conducting a technical feasibility studies. The objective of this pilot project are as shown in the slide, which mainly to simulate the P2P energy trading within the sandbox environment and to identify the motivation and regulation requirement. I also would like to thank to all the stakeholders who are involved in this project, such as Ministry, Energy Commission, TMB, the utility company, and also Power Ledger as the platform provider. For information, the electricity market in Malaysia is still regulated. Therefore, we need a regulatory sandbox to allow the prosumer and the consumer to trade the energy. The definition of the regulatory sandbox as shown in this slide. The regulatory sandbox was approved last year by the Energy Commission commencing November 2019 until June 2020 with the key provision as shown in this slide, mainly on the interim network charges to allow the prosumer and consumer trading using the TNB grid. So why we move into the P2P energy trading? Under the RECTOR study, P2P has been identified as one of the potential strategies to encourage the solar rooftop. This slide shows the technical potential on solar rooftop based on the study. Currently, the solar rooftop program in Malaysia is under net energy metering, which based on 1-to-1 offset, and it will last until this December 2020. So this is the slide that's showing the concept of the pilot run. Basically, there are three main stakeholders, which are the prosumer who generates the solar energy. And for this pilot project, the prosumer are from the existing NEM applicant. They will produce and sell the energy to the consumer. However, if there is no taker during the energy generated, TMB will accept it at zero cost. Second is the utility company, which is TMB, who own the grid. Besides that, in this project, TMB also support the meter infrastructure and provide the billing system. So that with this, the settlement will go through the existing utility billing and we don't need to have a redundant meter for this project. The third is the consumers who buy the energy from the prosumer. For this project, the trading model is based on the price arbitraging. To make the P2P energy trading feasible, we have selected the prosumers from the low tariff and the consumer from the high tariff, so that for the prosumers, besides of self-consume the excess energy under the NEM, they have the opportunity to sell the energy higher price than their tariff, but a bit lower from the consumer existing tariff. So what are we looking for this pilot project? First one is on the infrastructure. How actually the existing TMB infrastructure, such as the meter, the billing system, can be connected to the P2P energy trading platform. In this case is from the Power Ledger. Second is what are the necessary process to run the P2P energy trading, such as the data, trading, and settlement process. Next is on the selection for the participant. This is how actually we identify, for example, based on certain criteria. For example, for the prosumer, at least they have at least average 1,000 kilowatt monthly excess energy. And for the consumer, at least they must have a good payment history. The fourth is on the business model. We're also looking for that, how actually the P2P can be operated and promote the solar rooftop installation. And in the same time, the P2P can sustain in the long run. We found that during this pilot project, most of the participant decision to participate is much driven to the economy return. The last is on the regulation which needed to support the P2P energy trading implementation in Malaysia in the future. So this slide shows the key challenges and the mitigation for this project. The first one is on the infrastructure. For example, we are facing the challenges to connect the TMB data meter to Power Ledger P2P energy trading platform during the early stage. Issues such as the data format and the communication happen. To mitigate this, SEDA has developed a data aggregator to format TMB meter data and send to Power Ledger energy trading platform. Although it is not fully automated, we are able to process the data from the meter up to the trading and generating the statement of use by 10 days. And this one is going to be used for the billing and settlement. Second challenge is on selecting the participant, which are the prosumer and consumers, because we need to find the most matching profile between these two so that the trading can be happen. Since the prosumer are from the NAM, which their characteristic is they will self-consume first from the generated energy, so that we need to see when the prosumer will have the excess energy and then match with the potential consumers. For the participant, for the consumer, we have identified the energy profile that's suitable, especially the one that with high demand during the weekend. So this will help to reduce the untraded energy. The third challenge is on setting up the energy trading platform itself. This is related to establish such as, for example, the trading logic, the communication, the data processing, the P2P price, and etc. For example, for trading rules, we adopt the cheapest price from the prosumer first that will be cleared or traded. Okay, the fourth one is the process to complete the trading, such as billing, reconciliation, and settlement. Since Malaysia electricity market is still regulated, prosumer and consumer have limitation on trading the energy, such as payment, collection, and billing. Therefore, to mitigate this challenge, TMB acts as the clearing house. This means that settlement of the trading will go through TMB, including the collection and payment. This also helps to reduce the risk of the collection. This is our final participant in the P2P energy trading pilot run last time. Although it is changing from time to time, especially for the prosumer, but this is the one, the final, up to last June. For the consumer, if you notice that they are mostly operating during the weekends, such as mall, restaurant, cold room, and etc. At the bottom, you can see that these are the tariff that involve for the prosumer and consumer. Okay, so this slide show the screenshot of Power Ledger P2P energy trading platform. It functions to process the meter data for trading by matching the supply and demand between the prosumer and consumer based on the trading logic and algorithm. The platform also provide the visual to the users so that they can see their energy trading. So this is my last slide. It shows the key takeaway from the pilot project. Generally, P2P energy trading attracts the interest from the solar. This is based on feedback that we received during the project. And in the same time also, there are many applications from the public to participate in this pilot project. Like I mentioned before, we have established several requirements or requirement for those who want to participate in this project. Okay, the first one, in terms of infrastructure, it needs to be integrated so that a process such as data, settlement, billing can be run smoothly. Another one is actually on the standardization of the meter format. This is what we found because there are many meters currently, so it may be different from one to one, especially on their format. So this is also one of the areas that need to be looked for the future. Second one is on the participation, so that we found that participants' decision to take part are strongly based on the economic return. For example, such as saving, how much they can save, about the margin, the risk. And also we need to also simplify the process to attract the participation. The third one is on the risk, because under this project, the untraded energy will be at zero cost. So this actually also causing consumer to maybe have loss. So that's why in the future, we foresee that the retailer will play an important role in settlement to reduce the risk, especially for being the last buyer. And last one, based on the current trading model, we see that system access charge or network charge provide the market signal on the commercial viability. I think that's all for now. Thank you very much.
Please let me introduce Muhammad Yusrizal Muhammad Yusof from TNB Renewables, Sdn Bhd. Yusrizal is a professional engineer offering vast and diverse experiences in renewable energy business development, electricity generation and planning, and long-term generation expansion planning. He's also experienced in designing, installation, testing, commissioning, and operation of a district cooling system with thermal energy storage, landfill gas renewable energy power generation, and energy audit. Familiar with the incentive-based regulation structure and depth knowledge of the Malaysian electricity supply industry, Yusrizal is currently the Managing Director of TNB Renewables, Sdn Bhd.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yus. I'll be talking about leveraging technologies to accelerate the low carbon energy transition. I'll be sharing our experience and challenges. I represent TNB Renewables. It's a subsidiary of TNB, looking at investment and asset management, asset development of renewable energy. And we start with how the change that we saw back in 2016 when we start to review our strategic direction. So back in 2015 or 2016, late 15, early 16, these are some of the trends that we observe happening in the world. We see more and more economic shift to Asia. There are more and more middleweight cities, middle-sized cities established when economy are booming, especially in China, India. We do see the same in Southeast Asia as well. Not only that, we see number two in terms of technology, disruptive technologies, especially in the power sector. We start to see more and more solar and wind becoming more and more competitive, providing cheap, clean, green energy to the world. In terms of capital, the expectations of shareholders are increasing, and not only increasing in terms of expectations of returns in terms of monetary, but also we do see capital or shareholders becoming more and more inclined towards clean and green investments. So we had our investment relation team going around promoting Tenaga National share in the Europe, in the US, whereby some of the investors are saying, you know, we are very interested in TNB, but we note that TNB has coal plants or producing energy using coal. So that's the expectation that we need to manage. In terms of regulation, there are evolving regulations globally, Malaysia and the region especially, basically addressing the need for higher penetration of renewables. So these are the four trends that we see back in 2016 that shape us to where we are now. We realize we need to have a dedicated investment arm looking at clean and green energy investment. Hence here we are today, TNB Renewables being part of TNB Group. In terms of Malaysia, we see the shift from 1990s, whereby, back then people call renewable energy alternative energy. We connect the first grid connected solar PV in our university in Bangi. In early 2000, we see a lot more penetration of building integrated photovoltaic. We see houses, offices are connected. Renewable energy power purchase agreements were established to allow for grid connection renewable energy. So in 2011 to 2014, we see feed-in tariff being introduced through the Renewable Energy Act, mainly pushing for solar and other renewables for connection to the grid at a premium rate. So it managed to kickstart, I think, to introduce solar energy generation in Malaysia, and at the same time allow for the investment to make sense. But after 2014, cost for solar dropped quite a lot, and we see the feed-in tariff for solar discontinued, and only for solar, but the rest are still there up until today. And 2016 onwards, starting from 16, 17, 18, 19, we see on yearly basis large-scale solar PV bidding administered by the Energy Commission of Malaysia, Suruhanjaya Tenaga. So we are expecting for both the feed-in tariff to continue and both for the LSS PV bidding program to continue. What else do we see? We do see more and more potential distributed generation happening, battery energy storage approaching electric vehicles, and more demand for clean energy. Not only that, we also see changes in regulation. We do see improvements in cost efficiency, especially in terms of financing available in the market, higher penetration or higher deployment of technology, especially digital technology. So TNB Renewables, back to TNB Renewables, we are looking at to be a leading sustainable energy asset developer and asset manager within the country as well as in Southeast Asia. In terms of the move for TNB, I think most of us are quite aware. TNB has invested in renewable energy in the UK as a hub for Europe, and similarly here in TNB Renewables for the Malaysian and Southeast Asia market. These are the 4 key thrusts that we drive our business on. We are looking at large-scale solar being the main driver. We see there are opportunities locally as well as regionally, focusing on Vietnam, focusing on cross-border expansion, as well as the local BID, the local NEDA program, and Green Corporate PPA. We are focusing on also providing asset management services for solar plants. The second trust is we are looking at small renewables. We are talking about securing mini hydro, biogas, waste to energy, biomass through the existing feed-in tariff and other initiatives locally, mainly local market. In Southeast Asia, we are looking at Vietnam mainly for solar and wind as the focus technology. In terms of the new RE technology, I think in the near future, battery energy storage is going to play a major role. We are also looking at low wind speed technology as well as hydro energy recovery. In terms of the corporate structure and the assets that we hold within the TNB group, we had G-Spark, the rooftop retail self-generation business established under TNB Renewables back in 2018. But now G-Spark is already operating on its own, providing services and investment in terms of the solar rooftop business locally in Malaysia. In terms of the small renewables, we are looking at 3 main subsidiary JV company. FTJ is our biomass investment, a 10 megawatt biomass investment. With Felda and SDTRE is our investment with Sandabi on biogas. We are expanding. We have 2 operating plant and 1 under development, soon to be under construction. And Tersat Hydro is approaching its commercial operation quite soon. This is a JV with a Terengganu-based company. In terms of local scale, utility scale renewables, we have 2 assets right now that we are operating and managing. TNB Sepang Solar from the large scale bidding round 1. TNB Bukit Selambau Solar from round 2 bidding. We have been successful in terms of the operations of Sepang Solar. Last year alone, we've registered 6% additional energy yield compared to the forecast. So we are very, very happy in terms of the performance and the output from Sepang. We are also very hopeful on TNB Bukit Selambau Solar. For Bukit Selambau, we managed to commission the plant 114 days earlier than the target date, despite the challenges of MCO that we faced this year. So these are the 2 plants that we are operating. And in the future, we are looking forward to more and more renewable energy, especially utility scale solar plants. So looking at the challenges in the market as well as the way forward, I think we look at challenges as well as opportunity that comes with it. It's very important for renewable energy player to drive cost efficiency, to have innovative solutions utilizing digital technology. Number 1, I think we want to focus in creating value. We want to be able to come up with innovative business model, innovative solutions. We want to have scale in terms of solar asset management, especially scale is very important. And also we want to be able to manage and develop good, efficient asset. So amongst things that we are looking at in terms of creating value is we are addressing the public's concern on the high utilization of land area due to solar. We are adopting to the most current technology whereby we see capacity per panel at the same size being almost double already by now. So utilization of the current technology helps us to address the concern on high or large land utilized for solar plants. Not only that, but also we are looking at floating solar, for example, to address also the concern on utilization of land. Number 2, we realize that collaboration is very important. We need to have good relationship with the stakeholders, especially government authorities, suppliers. We are talking to multiple suppliers to establish an efficient cost structure and efficient and also good supply chain. We are talking to financiers to be able to obtain good financing rates, as well as establishing similar companies or complementing companies to work with us as partners. Last but not least, investment on technology is very important, but it has to be done prudently and on a timely basis. We are always in the lookout for technology advancement for adoption. For example, right now we are looking at low wind speed technology, as well as embarking soon to look at how we can use battery energy storage to further optimize our cost. Not only that, I would like to also share part of the enabling factor for Sepang to produce or to be a very efficient, to come up with a very efficient production is we are utilizing technology in terms of digital and data analytics technology. For example, helping us to determine when is the right time for us to wash the panel. And we have this analytics tied up to the weather forecast. So if we see rain is coming and it's not worth to wash the panel just yet, we'll just let it be and wait for the rain. So those are some of the example that we are looking at in terms of optimizing or utilizing technology to drive our cost efficiency, to be innovative, and to address the challenges going forward. I think that's it for now. Thank you very much. I hope I've shared some good points for everyone. If you have any questions or need to discuss further, please approach me as the information on the screen. Thank you very much.
Sylvie Oziel is appointed as International President of Envision Digital and concurrently Managing Director of Asia Pacific, based in Singapore. With over 28 years of experience in business transformation and technology leadership roles, she joined Envision from Allianz, where she was Global CEO of Allianz Assistance and Asia Pacific CEO of Allianz Partners for 4 years. Prior to this, Sylvie spent 20 years with Accenture, where she led transformation projects for industrial clients spanning across the airspace, automotive, construction, pharmaceutical, and healthcare sectors. Sylvie's last position at Accenture was Global COO of Accenture Management Consulting.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks a lot for having me today. I would like to talk to you about the Envision Group, not only because it's a topic I like very much, of course, but also because I think it tells a short story of decarbonization by itself. So we were founded by Zanglais, a visionary entrepreneur 13 years ago, with the mission to solve sustainability challenge for mankind. And so 13 years ago, Lei created a wind turbine activity, which is now by sales in 2020, the #1 globally. And so one of the reasons for this amazing success, objectively, is that the wind turbine Envision was proposing were smart since inception, full of sensors, AI, IoT optimization, and recognizing the intrinsic value of this AI, IoT, so AIoT software and solutions. Lei created, headquartered in Singapore, Envision Digital, which is a software company proposing optimization solutions with an operating system, edge and cloud called NOS, and some vertical applications to support decarbonization as well as full system efficiency. Third activity, 18 months ago, we acquired the batteries of Nissan, the captive electric vehicle batteries of this Japanese manufacturer. Those batteries are super high quality with more than 500,000 of cars on the road and 0 critical incidents. So it was one way to recognize the prominent role of electromobility in the decarbonization journey, but also, and maybe even more important, to recognize the importance to introduce some storage buffer between renewable electricity generation and the grid to provide some flexibility in the system as the share of renewable in the electricity mix was growing. So we took this AESC battery activity into stationary storage, complementary to their historical activities of electric vehicle batteries. So wind turbines, AI, IoT orchestration software, and electric batteries. In addition, we have two complementary activities. One is a VC activity in California, investing in green tech, clean tech, innovative solutions, and one which is a Formula E team, a racing team, which brings to life in a very clear way how technology can reconcile high performance, speed and thrill with green environment and sustainability. But coming back to Envision Digital, which I am leading, We support the decarbonization journey end to end. And for us, in the short term and the mid-term, decarbonization relies very much on electrification of usage with electromobility and also electrification of industrial processes and generation of green electricity. So it's about suppressing emissions during the process themselves, transport or industry, but also suppressing emissions when producing the electricity itself upstream. So we support, as I was saying, electric vehicle transition with EV charging solutions, for instance, smart solutions, but also we support green electricity generation. We recently announced partnerships with Oryx, the Japanese leading solar developers, with SolarVest, solar developer in Malaysia. We support around the world Total, Shell, SSC, Equinor, EDF, Coned in their renewable energy generation. And the previous presenter was talking about AIoT for solar farms. We are also very proud of supporting innovative use cases and leading edge technologies. For instance, the initiative of EGAT in Thailand to implement a combination of floating solar and hydro generation. So that's about green electricity generation. We also support efficient consumption, efficiency of infrastructures. We work, for instance, with Keppel or HDB on building efficiency. But we think that beyond green generation, electrification, smart consumption, the big challenge today, as the share of renewable energy is growing into the mix, is really the flexibility challenge. The more we go, the more intermittent renewable energy are creating shocks into the grid. And this topic, this challenge, is even made more acute by the fact that this green electricity transition is not only driven top-down in a controlled way by the incumbent players, but also driven bottom-up by companies and individuals installing self-generation capacity, prosuming, so producing for their own consumption, and also injecting into the grid, which creates decentralized, less known, less predictable, and totally less controllable injections and shock into the grid. So one very striking example is that during the COVID lockdown, UK reached 70% of its electricity being from renewable sources, which created such a shock on the grid that emergency measures had to be put in place to ensure the grid would remain in balance between demand and supply. And in fact, shutdown and blackouts were avoided by short and could have happened. So the more we go, the more those non-controllable loads are taking a prominent part of the generation, the more difficult is the job of the grid to keep demand and supply in permanent balance to avoid shutdown. So this leads to the need to increase the grid. For instance, TenneT, which is a Dutch and German transmission operator, planned to inject 35 billion euro in the next 10 years to expand its grid capacity in Netherlands and Germany. And of course, pumping up the grid is necessary, but it's not economically viable. As you can see, it's huge budgets. It's also not so environmentally friendly, and it's generating big lead times because it takes years and years to actually increase the physical capacity of the grid. So the physical grid needs to be supplemented by what we call a digital grid, which is what we focus on, which is providing smart flexibility and orchestration, controlling some demand load, and using appropriately storage to minimize the shocks on the grid. If we don't do that, the price of the grid in the electricity bill of consumers may expand beyond the current level, which is typically 40% of the electricity price in many countries. And also, this expensive cost of the grid may trigger even more communities of energies and microgrids, which are basically corporations or consumers or communities reacting to expensive grid costs by taking themselves off the grid part of the time and actually producing for their self-consumption, which is a nice way to take ownership for decarbonization, but which is creating even more challenges for the grid, as some demand may suddenly disappear, and there are in fact less electrons which are being consumed from the grid, paying for the fixed price of the grid. It's like building a big highway, which is only used spot during rush hours, and which is unused rest of the time, making every car taking the highway paying for an even proportionally more important toll, as there are less cars actually using the highway. So that image is more than an image. In fact, it's what's happening in California, where the expensive cost of the grid to cope with intermittent energy is in fact triggering more and more prosuming and communities of energies, which are creating even more shocks and unpredictability into the grid, and making the remaining consumption being even more taxed by a heavy, expensive fixed cost of the grid. So in order to ensure a more harmonious development of renewable energy and a more harmonious insertion of intermittent energy into the grid, we focus a lot on providing flexible solutions, which are basically nicely orchestrating storage. Today, it's battery storage. In the future, it will most likely be also hydrogen generation and other forms of flexibility. So we are very proud in the region to work with PSA in Singapore and KPL, providing flexibility solutions, to work with PTT, with the VSTEC Solar Campus for university teaching and research, which is a full solar campus with rooftop solar, EV charging, smart storage orchestration. We believe electric vehicles are going to play a key role, because electric vehicles can provide controllable load, which can be used to actually smooth the demand profile into the grid, without talking about vehicle to grid, so injecting from the car battery into the grid, or using the car battery as a mobile storage, even without going that far. Cars are typically sitting idle 95 to 96% of the time, and they can be charged at times of the day when consumption is low, in order to actually even and smooth the demand into the grid. So we are working on all those fronts. We are providing AI and IoT solutions, cloud-based optimization, edge control, and smart orchestration. However, even if we are proud of being capable of providing the right technology solution, we think this whole decarbonization journey can only work if the proper incentives are put in place to reward flexibility and to create the right incentives for individuals to manage their load, to manage their demand, to inject smartly into the grid, and for industrial players to actually use the flexibility they can create with storage, with controllable load, to ease, I would say, the job that the grid operators need to do to maintain control. So we think that governments and institutions and regulators play more than ever a key role to make sure that this decarbonization fantastic journey, pushing for electrification, pushing for green electricity, pushing for self-production, self-consumption, bottom-up transformation, not only relying on the incumbent electricity generators from historical sources. This wonderful journey will only work if the right setup and the right incentives are created to make sure that the flexibility challenge is properly structured, the right incentives are aligned, and that we can actually ensure a smooth transition without having to pump up the grid too much. And we are again very happy to be part of this journey, supporting the various aspects from generation to consumption efficiency to smart storage to overall grid and flexibility orchestration.
Davis Chong is the Group CEO of SolarVest Holdings Berhad. With extensive marketing and corporate experiences from previous roles in multinational companies, Davis has continuously implemented strategic commercial plans for the solar EPCC market in Malaysia. These include grid-tied and off-grid systems and self-consumption models in the business segment from rooftop to utility-scale solar. Believing in the vision of creating a world generated by renewable energy, SolarVest as a group has installed more than 300 megawatts solar plants across Malaysia and is now eyeing geographical expansion into Southeast Asian countries, as well as setting up footprints in the Asia-Pacific market.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Davis Chong. I'm the CEO of Solaris Holdings Berhad. Today, I'm going to bring you through how can we optimize solar photovoltaic performance for longevity in the smart era, like now that we can use our PowerTrack services, which PowerTrack is one of the subsidiary or one of our product focus that specialize in delivering superior and customized end-to-end or O&M solutions for our solar PV plants. So we are also recently proud to engage and adopt AIoT solutions with partnership and with Aviation, which to enhance this area with digital transformation as well. Firstly, I will bring you through that why is this so important for all the PV plants owners and investors to adopt the most sophisticated O&M services for all the solar plants that they own. So the first reason is always we want to maintain peak efficiency operations, which we integrate the AIoT solutions that it will actually translate underperformance plant into actionable outcomes and recommend the smart actions to recover the peak efficiency system. So the second one is to actually minimize the downtime, which the downtime risk mitigations with this system, we can actually detect anomalies prior to failure that we can do predictive maintenance with that. So the third, actually, we can do significant ROI maximizations, which it will optimize the performance with O&M activities that eliminate unnecessary expenditures and to recommend necessary maintenance to be done at the right time. The fourth, actually, we can prolong the system lifetime. We can extend the lifetime maybe up to 40 years. So with that platform, we can actually provide detailed data analytics or breakdown of the performance to enable predictive and scheduled O&M activities to be done to maintain the system health. Then we can also have reliable safety assurance with the AIoT digital O&M monitoring platform that we can automate human tasks in the system. The last one, we can also do the visual appearance enhancement, which to reduce the messy environment and also reduce the risk of accidents. So with this maintenance, we can actually provide a variety of services to maintain your power plant and to let your power plant to be a safer workplace and better visual appearance as well. Okay, so we'll go through some common post-installation issue in the solar PV plant itself. So the first thing that we will see the system aging issue is a soiling issue. The longer the time will go with the soiling issues, is actually will have more sunlight to be blocked and it will reduce the performance or efficiencies. Some of the soiling issue actually is the bird droppings, and it might from the falling leaves, and it also might from the dirt and dust due to the environmental issue. So maybe some of the area will be with some constructions is ongoing, or even due to some heavy machinery operations inside the factories as well. So the longer that you delay, then it will cause some hotspots or yield performance issue that they need actions to be taken immediately. Okay, the second issues that we might have with the on the PV module is a hotspot issue. Might be due to some soiling long term, that it will create damage to the solar panel under the soiling issue or shading problems for too long period. Then it will become a permanent damage to the solar panel that cannot be recovered anymore. So you can see some of the pictures that some of the example pictures that we have for the soiling issue that cause to become a permanent hotspots. Okay, another kind of system aging issue that will cause damages is probably from rodent bites, that it will expose the wires to create sparks and arc fault. It may be from broken or loose connectors, possible from workmanship, that will create heat from loose connections and cause arcing. That also can, with the system is aging, it might have some leaf clog to reef some rod and collect water, cause leakages. And the last thing is, with the system aging, that you might have some loose and rusted structures that will weaken the structure and to collapse easily in the system. That cause all the DC wiring reliability issue. Okay, so some of the problems that it will create some system downtime that from the main component failure. So first is the PV module. You might have some breakage from falling objects or some other issues. Then you might have some unknown objects that cover the PV module as well. So on the inverter itself, you might also have some pest intrusion issue that cause the shortage, and you might have some alarm warning from the inverter intermittent failure as well. So all this issue, it will cause your system downtime as well. Okay, so we're going to tell you that how we design end-to-end AIoT O&M solutions, that it will give you a full coverage to maintain your system into optimum yield in the energy generations. So the first element that in this system is it has the intelligent business decisions. It works with all kinds of inverter brand and can synchronize in the software. So in these solutions, you already have the best built-in knowledge and info design by the solar experts and professionals who understand the solar industry and how the solar plant can work so well. The second is the enhanced operational efficiency, which it has smart alarm engine and active and historical alarm event lookup. So that will actually prompt you to do a corrective maintenance at the time that you need. So the third one is the delightful customer experience. You have flexible charging tools. You have data report generations to give you real-time data of the energy plant. The fourth one is the advanced data analytics, which is so important, which this is the differentiations of the O&M tools that we have. It has one glance analytics to give you all the analytic data that it could give you the good decision making. It has detailed performance insight to tell you all necessary data to make decisions for the maintenance services as well. The fifth one, also accurate data predictions. It has a machine detected anomalies. Then it has 30 gigawatt of data or 200 over sites globally to compare the data of your site performance. Lastly, it has smart action recommendations. You can actually prioritize the sensible actions that will direct improve the ROI. So that's all the 6 advantages to use this platform to manage our power plant. Okay, other than that, we have the smart recommendations that to recommend the wash plan optimizer to recommend when you should clean the panel. We have tracker performance to store and backtracking. We have inverter reliability to study and give you inverter data that how good is the inverter performance. We also can have module degradation data to give you the data of the module that whether the degradation is still within the linear spec that we have. Okay, so let's bring you through the comprehensive solutions to manage aging and downtime issue of our solar PV plant. So the first thing that we have, which we differentiate from others, is the machine detected anomalies. We have state-of-the-art platform to provide advanced analytics and predictive actions to all sorts of problems that we have shared to you just now. We have fast, accurate, real-time reports to do performance monitoring by our service engineer or service admin in the service center to help you to monitor the problems. Then we have smart and systematic troubleshooting team from the service engineers and service technicians to do all sorts of preventative and corrective maintenance at site. Then after that, we have warranty claim administrations to do the claim management with your suppliers or manufacturers. After that, we also have temporarily backup replacement to replace the spare parts at your site while waiting for the warranty claim to come back. So that actually will give you all the complete solutions of O&M to manage your energy production to the optimum level. So I hope that that will bring you through that what a comprehensive solutions that you need in the new era now, combined with our digital platform that it is driven with artificial intelligence. So thank you, everyone. I hope that will bring you knowledge on how we can manage our solar power plant in the future.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to all of you here who have decided to join us for the panel session. Thank you for taking time out and for spending your afternoon here with us. My name is Lionel. I'm the head of the MPIA, which is the Malaysian Photovoltaic Industry Association. And today we are going to be focusing on, after all the talks that we've had, and dive a little bit deeper into leveraging on technology to accelerate the transition to a low carbon energy transition. Oops, bit of a mouthful. Just to give you a bit of an update or background to MPIA, we've been around since 2007. We represent nearly the entire supply chain of the solar industry within Malaysia. And we currently have about 119 members, and we have representing nearly the entire supply chain, as I said earlier on. MPIA has had the opportunity and the privilege of being able to work with various government agencies. Some of them are represented here today as some of the speakers. And I think without further ado, I think we can just jump right into the panel discussion that we have right now. Now, that's a really long title when you say leverage technology to accelerate to low carbon energy transition. Well, one of the most obvious things and how these things tend to go, we notice that a lot of it tends to come back a lot to solar. No points for guessing why I'm actually moderating this thing. So if I could just direct perhaps the first question here to Encik Yusrizal from TNB. Why is it we're seeing a lot of this is when we want to transition to a low carbon energy roadmap or route? Why is solar so prominently featured in this situation?
Thanks, Liner. By the way, please call me Yus, Liner.
Okay. Easier.
Yeah, easier. Okay. I think what we have here is quite common. What we see in the whole wide world, solar and wind are the main contributor for renewable energy. You talk about renewable energy, you are going to talk about majority of the capacities in the world are contributed by either solar or wind. And specifically here, at least in Malaysia right now with the current technology, I don't think, from what we know, there is any viable location for major wind development. So for Malaysia, I think for now, we are looking at solar as the main contributor for renewable energy. You talk about renewable energy, you cannot run away from solar, especially here in Malaysia. In the future, perhaps, wind could be viable with improvement in technology. But others, like the likes of mini hydro, the likes of biogas, biomass will still be there, no doubt. But in terms of contribution capacity, solar will be upfront, far away from the rest. So it is not about whether we prefer or the policy favors solar over the rest, but rather that's the way it is. Commercially, financing is easier for solar. Development risks are lower, much lower for solar. And in terms of cost, we have seen vast or very, very big reduction in terms of capex from solar. So these few factors contribute to solar being in the forefront for now. But in the future, we do expect if there's a significant improvement for low wind speed turbine, then we could potentially see the same.
But just to carry on a bit with that, when you talk about low wind speed turbines, I take it that TNB has already done perhaps a survey and research on the wind speeds or viability. Just curious.
Okay, I think it's very early. We are actually looking at low wind speed as one of the up and coming potential to diversify TNB renewables, especially as highlighted in my presentation. I think we look at technology as one of our focus, as well as the rest of other resources in renewables. So we want to be involved as much as we can, contributing for the development of renewables in the country. And definitely low wind speed is one of our focus right now, although it's still very early and not so much of has been done for that, but we are moving towards gathering information, understanding the technology, and finding sites and location which can be implementable for those.
Right. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting because sometimes we take lessons from history. If you remember what Sabah is called, actually it's called land below the wind. So I think if anyone can make wind turbines work within the equatorial belt, I mean, it'd be quite something in terms of technology. So from generation, if we just flip over to consumption side, if I can engage Mr. Ho Tian Hao from Envision. Here we're talking about your company has actually gone on to be numbered among the RE100 companies. Could you share maybe a little bit slightly deeper what this means for Envision in Southeast Asia? Are we late to the party? Are we on time, or are we lagging, like we're a few years behind? Where do we stand at the moment as a region, perhaps?
Okay, for Envision, we embrace RE100 because that is where I think everybody can play a part. If an organization or a company embrace RE100 for the benefit of all, literally you pledge to everybody that your organization will use energy only from renewable sources. And it is a journey. It's not like today you pledge, tomorrow you switch entirely to renewables. It can be a 3-year plan, 5-year plan, or 10-year plan. So so every organization can play a part, right? You can say, oh, in 5 years, I'm going to switch over slowly to renewables by either being a prosumer or by either other means like purchasing renewable energy certificate, to offset some of your carbon footprint. So for RE100 is really on like everybody play a part, right? And to Lionel's question on is Southeast Asia late in the game? I think it's a yes and no question. So in the principle of everybody play a part, I think today most of us owns a car, right? And if you look at Southeast Asia, electric vehicle, EVs, are near non-existence, are near zero. And a lot of our countries, including Malaysia, even Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, none of the Southeast Asia country has a good policy to encourage EV. And everybody knows EV, don't emit carbon dioxide as per the normal ICE combustion car. So with that said, if you go to Europe, you go to US, even you go to China, the penetration rate of EV is very high. In US itself, in 2018, you see a boom of 80% of EV sales. In Europe, 2019 is more than 40% of EV sales boom. Even China, the biggest petrol consumption nation in the world, YOY 2019 to 2020, to July, I think the statistic is about 19% EV sales up. And if you look at Southeast Asia, like I said, pretty much is non-existence. Have your friends or your neighbor purchase one Nissan Leaf or Tesla? No, right? So in that sense, right, let alone the bigger scale of coal fire power plants, so on and so forth, but just the public, you and me. And I think we are not really, playing our part in terms of the EV. So in that sense, I think we are a little bit late in the game in terms of the public awareness or the government policy for the public. But I would say on the other perspective, Southeast Asia is okay. One example is about our playing on our strength. In Southeast Asia, as you know, we are good with all the river and reservoir for hydroelectric power. So in Malaysia, we have, let's say, a big hydroelectric power, 2.4 gigawatts, Bakun in Sarawak, and then some smaller ones in West Malaysia. In Thailand, there are many dams. In Vietnam, it is double the size of the rest of the Southeast Asia. We have a lot of good hydropower water resources. And one of the good thing that I think Southeast Asia is doing well compared to the rest of the world is we are now piloting a lot of floating solar initiative on the hydro dams. And one very good example for you is EGAT in Thailand. Since a year and a half ago, their Energy Commission has passed a bill that they will build 2,700 megawatts of floating solar on their 10 dams. And this 2,700 megawatts over the next 9 to 10 years is going to power up Thailand significantly as a country. Let alone that can help to export some of this surplus out to the neighboring countries by the Pan-ASEAN Grid initiative that all the Southeast Asia countries is talking to. So I think compared to the rest of the world, I think Southeast Asia is doing really well in that floating solar and hydro synergy, which is really playing to our part. And that itself is more, I would say, prominent now compared to the rest of the world. So I would say it's a big topic, but I'll just use these two examples to illustrate to you that, yes, we are slow in some common thing like EVs, but we play our part in our strength like floating solar and hydro synergy application.
Thanks. Thank you very much for that rather detailed sharing from your side. So when we look at all of these things, this is really good because I think it's a classic case of when you wear the t-shirt, same but different. It's the same across the world, but it's also different from where our strengths are here. So that's really good. Drawing back from the hydro side and back to the earlier comment that Yus made about why the uptake would be a lot faster on the solar side. The last 5 years, a lot of things have happened. We've had the FIT, we've had the NEM, net energy metering, sorry, the Selco, self-consumption. So this one is actually directed to use on this matter. I mean, what are the main challenges? I mean, the uptake has been good, but when you compare Malaysia to say some of our neighbors like Thailand or Vietnam for that matter, we seem to be like, we seem to have everything going, but it gets a bit stuck. Why do you think that is? What's really hampering the situation? You think?
In terms of offtake, I think it's very, very good. We've seen back in 2011, whereby we adopted the feed-in tariff mechanism that actually kickstart the solar in Malaysia. After previously the building integrated photovoltaic program, then comes in feed-in tariff. By 2014, I think pretty much the FIT program for solar was stopped, and then in 2016 comes in the large-scale solar bidding. So up until today, we see year in year out, every year it's LSS. Plus NEM, net energy metering has been enhanced to one-on-one rate, and self-consumption and adoption of rooftop solar has become quite a norm now. And I think from SEDA database, you can see there are a lot of company registered as a solar investor with SEDA right now. So I think pretty much people are moving to the right direction. I think Malaysia is moving to the right direction. We might be a bit slow relatively, compared to the rest in terms of renewable. But I think what we do is quite prudent. We invest or come in big into solar at the right time. I think just a simple comparison program that we have here in Malaysia versus program of feed-in tariff of solar in Vietnam, I think we've seen we are able to put the program to be a viable, commercially viable and quite robust program since the inception in 2016, as opposed to Vietnam had almost 5,000 megawatts of solar connected to the grid last year, 2019. But
Right.
they were facing a bit of problem in terms of the technical problem with the dispatch because of the grid system is not that robust. So I think we are taking the right approach. It might seem a little bit, stringent for some. We do expect that. I mean, as a developer ourselves also, we do have quite a lot of, heated discussion with TNB grid and whatnot. So that is expected, and I think probably later we can discuss a bit more on this.
Talking about heated, I'm actually going to shift this. While you have your heated discussions within TNB, there's also a heated discussion outside. Our friend Davis is smiling there because from this side, from a EPC point of view, from the industry point of view, how do you think this could be taken forward a little bit faster?
I think we have been talking a few times about slow in Malaysia of the RE development. I do agree with it, but we have got this question many times about how the industry development in Malaysia. But I always quote in another way that Malaysia so far is the most slow and steady country in Southeast Asia in terms of RE development. So this is what we are proud with. We have very stable policy from the government. Very expectable. It's within the expectation or within the 5 years development that how we want to plan it. Then we have one of the most bankable PPA in Southeast Asia. So I think I will say that this is the part of the good job that industry players and the government have done to develop Malaysia RE market.
Yeah, that's actually
of course,
really cool.
Being one of the players. And with all of us that we always want the market to grow faster. We always need to push the government or the authority to do a better and better job, right? So I think this is a check and balance. It's a good relationship that's happening now.
But that's interesting that you brought up this thing about accelerating and going a bit faster, because here, Encik Hasril, you could actually, if you can, what we've got here is rather interesting, that there are possibly new business models as a result of this expansion. And looking at what is recently come up with the P2P, peer-to-peer on the from the distribution point of view. What's the way forward now that your sandbox regulation study has been done? What's the next step do we take? What's the next step we go for here?
Okay, maybe I share first about just now about the business model, Lionel, is it? Do you think? Okay, based on our pilot run and also some literatures, we found that the P2P energy trading can be extended to other business model. For example, the REC market, because since all the electricity that is traded on the P2P platform is a renewable energy, so we foresee a potential for the same platform to include the REC trading, and the retailer can extend their role as REC aggregator and sell the REC to corporate buyers. At the same time, the retailer can also play the role of aggregator for a pool of rooftop, as in a virtual power plants, and sell the aggregated solar electricity to corporate buyers. In a wholesale electricity market, the retailer can arbitrage the energy price between P2P and wholesale market. Thereby, it can maximize their value to electricity consumers. Another one, we also see, based on what we have discussed, there is also a potential of demand response market using with this P2P energy trading market, because prosumer will actively play their roles to match the supply and demand in the grid. So this is on the additional business model that can be adopted potentially, I would say.
So it's interesting that you bring this up, because what happens now is on one side where it's very, in a sense, very bread and butter, just simply generation and distribution of energy. Now you're actually bringing in as interesting aspects of IoT, smart contracts, and these are very interesting because okay, coming from MPIA bias, I'm looking at solar actually being a driving force, the ability to open up new market segments as well, and create job creation is basically what I'm talking about. And I think having the P2P and the renewable energy certification market opening up, I think that's really good direction to be going with. Yeah. So coming back to use on this thing, with all of this in mind, how does the grid custodian of the grid for so many years view these new models coming in, as now injection into the grid becomes more sporadic? It is no longer a single point of injection, but it's distributed. How does the grid, how does TNB view this in terms of stability?
I think good question, Lionel. But I think the only way to go about this is only to embrace. Back in 2016, we look at these changes happening quite a lot in a major scale in Europe and the US. So we decided, in order for TNB or any utility company to stay on with the business is to embrace and to adapt to the situation. There's no, if, buts, and maybe about it anymore. That's the way it's going. And I think, yes, stability needs to be managed. The security of the system needs to be managed. But with technology, there's a way to go around it. So there's no reason why I think by today, utilities can put any reason to reject this renewable energy anymore.
Oh, that's really good, because maybe if I can shift it back down also to David's side, who is happily smiling there. In terms of regulation, how I mean, from a market player's point of view, perhaps David, you could share where, from our side, with your experience, how could we bring this forward, say for updating all the standards and regulations? How could we help TNB in that manner, and ST as well?
You mean how we can improve the grid stability together, or how we can fit back the...
Yes, because we have a lot of technology now, which is a lot of the concerns they used to have is now being taken care of by technology. So how would we... Over to you.
Yeah, I think it's good that we are very happy that when TNB decided to go into solar market, solar industry in Malaysia. So it's proven that this market is really moving and is getting a lot of attention from even utility provider. So good that Yus is leading the divisions now, and this will be the best market feedback to tell back the utility grid operator that how important to maintain or improve the grid so that we can inject more different power source to the grid. So other than we being part of the player to give the most latest market challenges or engineering issues when we try to implement RE into the grid, that TNB Renewables will be one of the most important channel for TNB to know what are the challenges as well. Of course, to market, there are many players from developer and to EPCC like us. We can always have active dialogue sessions with TNB, with SEDA, with ST together to update what are the new challenges. But to the moment now, I think what is being discussed in MPIA, the technical issue, the technical committee that we formed, I think it's good to tackle all the current important technical issues. Like the grid issue, the fault current level issue, all are the challenges that I think we can accelerate RE implementation faster. So when those problems being covered, then let's talk about how can we pump in more with probably utility scale storage or something like that. But that is beyond what we are facing right now, I would say.
it's interesting because again, that from producer and possibly now if we come back to Haltian on this thing, as a company, Envision is looking at like we were saying just now about the RE100. So with all these improvements and all these new aspects which are coming into the energy market, how could Envision, I don't use to envision, but how could Envision be leveraging on this sort of technology to, could you maybe come up with a possibility, a scenario or something where Envision could use this or utilize what is available or what has been shared so far?
Well, I think for the grid itself, right? It is both the practical aspect of it and also the situational aspect of it, right? So we all know that in the US, I would say the renewable mix is very high, especially in California. So I think it is not a very I would say recent news, right? That already people know that in California, the morning time where the sun is shining, it is really helping with solar to actually feed back to the demand. But when the sun don't shine and it's getting dark, and the demand also start peaking because people go back to home and start to turn on the aircon in summer, and that itself, is adding a lot of load to the grid. And the grid in US, what they're trying to do is they enlarge the pipe, right? Just like what my president Sylvie has mentioned, and that itself has bumped up the cost of the public of utilizing renewables, including the tax. So that itself is not a new thing. Like US, 40% of this cost is really into transmission and distribution, because they need to do infrastructure work. So does Germany and UK is 40%, although they have a huge mix of renewable. People enjoy cheaper energy, but the grid, I would say, is something that worth investing. Now, the investment can come in from another way, right? Which is the digital way of it. If we have enough AI and IoT technologies that we can help to forecast when is the good time for renewable to pump in, because we want to respond to the demand, like a virtual power plant VPP concept. And if we can also forecast on the weather, like when it is going to sun, when sun is shining, when the wind is blowing, then for the demand and supply, we use this digital grid to really balance both sides, the practical side and the situational side. So we try to avoid the time like UK that is about to black out during this COVID time because of this issue, intermittency. Last year, Germany have this. So I would say to make it simpler is you can imagine today we have Grab, we have Uber, right? And to really maximize the let's say in this case the taxi availability in the street is not really to keep on increasing more taxi, because there will be time where you don't need the taxi. The taxi is idle on the road, right? Then who is going to pay the road tax and the taxi rental fee, right? So rather than doing that, you sort of use the digital way, the Grab app or the Uber app, to really match the demand and the supply. So ultimately, you hit a balance, you hit an equilibrium where it is affordable. At the same time, you solve this issue as well, which I would say the digital grid or VPP will help to embrace or accelerate the adoption of renewables rather than slowing it down.
So indeed, that what you've just said is really something that, that whole adage about we don't know what our kids actually will be doing when they graduate and when they come out to work. I mean, what you've just described is a scenario which we actually don't know, because there's so many new possibilities, which is probably why we're always very excited on the practical, like you said, on the practical side, but as well on the situational side of things when these things come forward. Okay.
Lionel,
right.
Lionel, just trying to share a small. Can I share a small experience with Envision? So what we have Envision as our data analytics in terms of monitoring our day-to-day operations and maintenance, right? So we were basically monitoring the performance of each string, each table of solar PV module generation. And we have that particular monitoring connected to the weather forecast. So our decision to wash or not to wash the module by location is dependent on this data analytics that we have together with Envision. So it let us know and allow us to make data-based decision whether, you know, should we wash this or we should just wait for the rain that is coming in a few hours time. So that's how, you know, technology simplifies and assists us in our operation and help us to make good decision and save a lot of money.
That's really awesome. Okay, we've got ton of questions coming in. Let's see. Oh yes, this one is directed at AJ Hasril. Of course, now that you have the P2P very hot. There's a lot of P2P questions here. So of course comes the question. Trading for domestic electricity consumers, is it only that, or can domestic prosumers also sell to commercial consumers?
Okay.
And I think the second half of that question is partially answered. Can a company become a third-party wholesaler, buying from a domestic prosumer and selling it to companies such as RE100? That's actually like 4 questions inside 1 question. So if anyone else wants to pick up on that also, please feel free. Over to you, Jasmine.
All right. First one is whether the residential can sell back to the residential. Based on our pilot project, what we see during the earlier, yes, we are looking into the residential to become the prosumer. But however, we found out the P2P for our model is actually based on the arbitrage, the price arbitraging opportunities. So whether it is viable or not viable, it really looks into the tariff of the consumer and the prosumer itself. So after we have run several testing and simulation, and also we conduct the trading in platform, so we found out for the time being, between the commercial and industrial have opportunities for this price arbitraging. The reason why, because our pilot project is based on NEM. So that's why in terms of the scale of the size itself, they have a big, so they can supply. And in the same time also the tariff itself, the industrial and the commercial have about the different tariff is quite big, about 30 cents. So they have the opportunities to sell to each other rather than the residential side, because for them normally they will enjoy the subsidy tariff at earlier about 300 kilowatt. So they will not buy from the P2P because the price is going to be higher compared to their existing price. In terms of the generation itself, from the residential side, the excess energy is quite small. And for our pilot project last time, one of our requirement to become the prosumer is they must have at least 1,000 kilowatt excess energy average, so that then only they can participate. Or else the things is become very small. That's why just now I mentioned one of the potential business model, yes, is going to be another third party, or we foresee it's going to be the retailer to aggregate all these small residential, and they can bulk it and sell it to the companies that looking for the green source energy, for example like the RE100, and also any companies that support the SDG. Yep.
Right. So in other words, you can have entire housing estates becoming a virtual power plant, aggregating all the rooftops into one. Wow, that would be fun. And yeah, I can imagine the residents' meetings also will be quite interesting. They'll be heckling more prices and who they can sell to, which is really cool. Okay. Also, just a quick one from Yus. I could answer this, but I think better coming from you. It's not just perhaps the grid that needs an updating. Perhaps you could also help update this question. The person who asked this question. They're asking whether there's going to be a power drop when you transition switching between TNB power source and a P2P. So, could you comment on that, please?
Okay. Thanks, Lionel. I think Lionel probably can also answer this. But I don't think there's going to be any kind of power drop or any problem with the power supply. It will be seamless. It will just be like, you know, if you have solar on your roof at home, you will not even realize it when the solar is done in the evening and you switch to a total grid supply. So shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It should just be, you know, seamless and, you know, without us even realizing.
Thank you for that. And when we're looking about this, this is an open question to anyone here who would like to answer this thing. Among other things that have on the scalability side of things, hydrogen also has been brought up as a particular topic. So I think like with a company like Envision, for example, Haltian, you know, this is, some people say it's ready to go to market in like 5 years, some say 10, some say, you know, how does a tech company like yours look at this opportunity for hydrogen economy? I mean, I'm more familiar with the solar economy, but then there's this thing about a hydrogen economy coming online, perhaps for storage or generation. What are your thoughts?
For me personally, I am not a fan of hydrogen because I don't believe in too much of energy conversion from one form to another form It should really be direct, like let's say a sunlight to electricity, right? A wind to electricity. But for hydrogen, at times, depending on technology, you are pretty much converting into electricity first, and then to hydrogen, and the hydrogen back to electricity. So the energy loss in between is, to me, is too much and is not, I would say, practical. So, you know, if you want to put into dollar and cents, it's like, you know, 50 cents per kilowatt hour, you know, with all the electrolyzer technology, with a capex of 200,000, for you to get back $1 to $2 per kilogram of hydrogen. So, you know, I would say in a fine day where you have a lot of sunlight, a lot of wind, yeah, you can use that to convert, right? But what if, you know, you are really using some important energies to convert into hydrogen and then use it for your car, for example, hydrogen car and other technologies. So I would say this is the fact that we are facing now. And until, you know, maybe 5 years down the road, the technology get more mature in terms of all this conversion. I personally don't think hydrogen will take off as a very practical and I would say down to earth kind of technology like solar or wind, which is very viable today. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm supposed to be the moderator. I'm supposed to be unbiased, but I tend to agree with them. It's sort of like trying to scratch your ear. You know, instead of just scratching your ear here, you're just going around your head to try and scratch your ear or under your knee, kind of situation. Yeah, but technology definitely is opening up along with RE and on the solar side because of modularity as well. And the micro hydro, it's really opening up new possibilities. The other thing, of course, some of the other questions here is a bit more country specific. I think this one either maybe Hasril or Yus may want to look at this. The Malaysian government is set to achieve 20% by 2025. Can the RE portion be increased without causing problems to the existing grid? I think, Yus, would you like to take that one?
Okay, I'll take that first, and probably Hazre, if you want to add a bit more, please do so. I think the grid system operator, single buyer, energy commission, as well as SEDA are very much aware of these situations, and I think we do have a lot of you know, reference to what happened before in California, the dark curve and whatnot, for us to not to, you know, jump into the same hole. Yeah. So I think whatever potential issues that we are going to face with higher penetration of renewables, these parties are taking actions. I think the grid also is being improved as we talk. There are a few new investments taken. And for example, right now, if I'm not mistaken, there was a study conducted earlier saying that if so long that we do not exceed 10% of our capacity with intermittent sources like solar, then we should be okay without any further investment required. So that 10% with the current capacity right now, we're talking about close to 2005 maybe megawatts. So I think we are almost there, and steps are taken to address potential issues that can come with it. But I think all parties related are looking at this, addressing this professionally and with eyes wide open.
Right. Okay. Maybe I can just add because in terms of how much we can penetrate is actually really rely on this our grid stability, and solar, for example, is dealing a lot of with GRE, which is causing the intermittency. But however, with I think that's why besides of the renewable, there's also a lot of potential in terms of the technology that can assist on these issues that maybe in the future will allow more penetration from the renewable energy into the grid, I think. For example, like just now Mr. Horton mentioned about the forecasting so that we can plan, and at the same time also maybe there is also in the smart grid itself, we can always predict or forecast in the future supply and demand. That's all.
All right. I have a very frantic person waving in front of me now to call it time. So I mean, indeed, it's usually that's the fun that usually gets cut short. Once everyone's all warmed up and there's a lot more to say, we usually run out of time. Okay, so gentlemen, perhaps one thought, just one thought, closing thought. What would be the one factor that will help us, that will propel us forward to transition quicker into a low carbon, or accelerate a low carbon energy transition? What is the one factor do you think that will be able to help? Anybody want to shoot first? I'll start pointing.
Maybe just a suggestion.
I'll vote for digital.
I think one of the factors, but maybe not in Malaysia yet, but I think the sustainable or the low carbon has been branded in the Europe for itself. So maybe we can bring it to Malaysia so that, for example, any companies that are actually looking for this is actually going to be marketing itself, marketing tools. So perhaps the towards sustainable energy can become one of their advantage. Yeah, so they can create a demand, and later after that, the supply can come maybe.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to go next?
One last thought from me is about why don't we focus on a endpoint to another endpoint? So that endpoints is we do a lot of educations and to share to people about renewable energy, and also how to build a sustainable ecosystem in our environment. Another thing is that why don't we focus on our drivers, the drivers of the RE or green technology, so-called. So the important driver is, of course, one of them is a policy. Another one of them is the bankability of funds that to drive all these projects. And when this tool is being educated and being planned in a proper way, I think in the middle of all sort of operational issues and problems, that it will be much more easier to be solved.
Thank you so much. Okay, who wants to have the last word? So it's either you or...
Use will have last word.
I thought I'm done already, but I think I do agree with Davis as well as Ho and Azrael. Bankability is very important to make sure that what we say that we want to do can have the right amount of financing to it. Number two, digital is also very important. Digital help us a lot in optimizing our costs. But at the same time, I just want everyone to start thinking on how to address the manpower issue. Eventually, if everything goes digital and we talk about cutting manpower, so what does people going to do in the future? Our kids, our our future generations going to do. So in view of this, I think let's probably concentrate on the higher value chain of making digital accessible, making digital. This all needs human resources. So besides that, policy and utility companies like TNB plus regulators like SEDA, Suruhanjaya Tenaga, and the government needs to work together to make this effort happen, obviously.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. How Tian, if you can, in 25 words or less, because our time is up.
Just to quote, my president and CEO, we always in Envision like to say, renewables is the new coal that generates, electricity, and then energy storage, battery is the new oil, and then digital is the new grid. So to really balance supply and demand, I think digital will really play a part, just like how the app on our mobile phone plays a part in our life now.
Yep. Thank you so much for that really insightful input. Thank you so much for taking time out. Ladies and gentlemen, we've unfortunately come to the end of our session here. We thank you again for your time, and thank you for spending time with us this afternoon. And I do apologize. There's a ton of questions still flying in, and we only managed to touch on some of them. Some of them were already answered during the course of discussion, but there's others who are not there. If I may suggest, those of you in the audience, if you could reach out to SEDA, MGTC, or even MPIA, we would be happy to see how we could collaborate and bring these things forward for you and make things happen for you. So till then, thank you very much for your time. And this is Lionel, and for all of us here, we're signing off. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.